Hello, greetings, gentle viewers. Now, it has been a little bit since I put a new video up, but I am working on 5 different videos at once, including a Smeghead's guide. And I'm wearing this mask. You can get this at the Hagan Redbubble, although the mouth is on my chin. I'm gonna wear this.
Yeah, it's it only had one size, so.
Yeah. I'm gonna wear this in a review, and I just thought it'd be funny to wear it in this video first. Anyway.
Cool. No, the reason she's wearing it is because there was an Irish heat wave, so it got up into the mid 80s, which actually for over here is quite a lot because no one has air conditioning. And so one of the things about living in this part of the world, these collection of isles, is you forget that the sun's a thing, and you forget that it's hot. So we were down the town yesterday running errands and having the crack. We met up with a friend and got back, and we're like, oh, we're sunburned. How could this possibly have happened? We were only out in the sun, the bright shining sun, for several hours. I don't even want to have sunscreen. It didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't
native.
know if you can see on mine. I've got mask line. You've got it on yours.
Yeah. But
it is what it is, I guess.
But anyway, I put a post on the Patreon, basically saying, do you want a Q&A video? It's been over 10 years. I've not done one before. People say yes, so I was like, okay, patrons, ask a question.
Burning desires.
And we will answer it.
So there's a laptop down here. We're not just you know.
Yeah, it's right there.
Losing interest anyway.
First question, the top one, is, what's the first thing that goes through your mind, Omega, when Hagan says, hey, let's watch this DVD I bought?
How can I get out of this? let me rank my excuses by probability of being accepted or a priority. No, I can't because I have a deadline for. No, usually I do have a deadline for work. We were recording this on a Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon, and I literally spent the past 7 hours doing work for work. So,
yeah. But your go-to one is just to be all no.
No, I don't say no. I usually give some excuse, even if it's just no, because there's a new YouTube video that I want to watch, and
it's got cats in it.
I can't watch this because I drank a beer while I was making dinner, and now I'm too drunk.
My girlfriend wants a bit of your backstory pre-YouTube. I assume that's me, but we could both get
your origin story?
I assume they won't realize
you got bit by a radioactive critic?
Yes, I got bit by a radioactive
critic. Was John Lovitz personally? Not his character, just he came up and I was like, ah!
I would be happy to be bit by Todd Spango.
Who's that?
John Lovitz's character in Mom and Dad Save the World.
I haven't seen that film in 30 years. At least 30 years.
It's so awesome.
Well, anyway.
Anyway, I will just read what I wrote here, because I did a reply before I was sure of how to do a video. I studied film and made some light inroads into writing. I got into reviews as a way to keep my film tech skills sharp after university, and it became a whole thing. Lol.
Lol.
And for you?
I mean, I don't really do much on YouTube now, just because I have to do professional things. I would like to actually do a few video essays. Mostly about, things like fandom and social identity theory, because I love to watch other people's, but, I don't know, I fucked around in high school, and then I kind of went to college for a while, and then I just kind of ran out of money for college, and then I just kind of joined the workforce, and I worked in retail at nights and weekends, and then I worked an office job, then I kind of met Hagan, and I kind of got into uni, and I was kind of good at it. So I kind of became a psychologist.
Kinda.
Yay. And there was a radioactive psychologist that bit me.
Someone else says, I'd be interested in watching a Q&A to learn more about the thought processes that go behind the scenes in Afghanistan. With that one, it's I found a film, and I'm like, I want to review this.
A meandering process.
So we take notes, and then usually I watch 2 or 3 times for notes. And then I will write the script, usually over 2 or 3 evenings, usually 6 hours at a time. And I'll come up with a first draft of my script, then I will just sit on it for a few months, do a second draft, as in I read through it, change the wording, and add new bits. At that point, I usually add the skits and the intro and stuff like that.
Take out all the jokes that I will get because they're dependent on popular American adverts, and you're like, no one will get that. I'm like, everybody will get that, actually.
Yes. And then I do the voiceover, and I edit that together with the visuals of the film. Usually that's where I will rewrite between a quarter and a third, maybe sometimes up to as much as 3/4 of the review. And then I will re-record that, put that in, then we do the 2-camera, where I've got lots of handwritten scrolls because I've changed everything.
The scrolls. I put my foot down finally. I was like, unless you write in block capitals, I'm not being the
director.
The director and the screen person and the grip and the best. I'm the best boy. But I was like, no, and you were like, no, but I have to write in bad handwriting. It's my nature.
It's the way, because of the reason. But and on the subject of because of the reason, I was also asked, please explain the reason. And the reason is just the reason. I have not gone into more detail about that. I think it's funny just to leave it vague. But if you have a headcanon of what it is, it's perfectly valid.
I don't even know what the reason was, because I wasn't around when it was developed. You were in Florida, right? Is it not the...
It was, I think it was...
The ill-fated collaboration?
I think it was Preaching to the Perverted came with it,
okay.
But I'd already scripted that before Florida, because I remember I did a dramatic reading of the Preaching to the Perverted review while I was in Florida. Oh. But, so yeah, the reason is just the reason. I don't think it needs to go any further, but if you want to make it go further and make it actually a particular thing, cool.
Yeah.
Tables turn. Does Hagan have any questions for the patrons? What can I do that would make you triple the amount of money you give me?
Oh, come on.
That's a joke.
Most people want to support
I know, it's a joke. I guess.
And no one's got no money.
I can't think of anything what's your favourite episode? I love hearing what the good and the bad in episodes are. I love hearing... because I like to find out what people think works and what people think doesn't work, because it's usually so different from what I assume.
What's your funniest bit? What bit did you just basically snarf Pepsi Max out your nostrils? And you were like, I can't believe it happened.
Like, what's your favorite episode? I'm always interested to hear that. Like, I like feedback. One of the parts of the making review process that no one else likes, but I really do like, is the comments. Even if I get nasty comments, I can usually turn that into come up with some sort of witty retort against them, and I amuse myself that way. But regular comments, I really get a kick out of.
Yeah, well, because a lot of your fans are very dedicated. They'll show up and comment every time.
That's true. That is very true.
Good job, guys.
Do I have some sort of a FAQ anywhere? I think we used to in the WordPress. I'm not entirely sure if we still do.
Is the WordPress still there?
Probably.
There was a Tumblr for a while, wasn't there?
Yeah, fuck yeah, Demon to Hagan. Creature ran that, but he has more busy stuff to do.
Tumblr confuses me. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, I never really got into Tumblr, I just couldn't get it. I was like, I think, for me, the fact that it's not, chronological, and then basically, if you see a post that's popular, you have to see all the other bullshit that everyone else on the whole entire internet thinks about it.
Yeah.
Usually in that kind of old-timey forum way that the spaces keep getting slow, and to get to the point the indents are so crazy that it's one letter per no, yeah. I can't.
I don't understand Tumblr, but I am amused by it.
We're too old.
Is there anything on my will not review list? Any specific titles or general suggestions? I don't think so. I mean,
You've done pretty much everything.
Yeah, when it comes to full genres and stuff, even if I'm absolutely despise a film, I'll do a review of it. I don't think I have any sort of standards for a film that I will not review. But yeah, there's a lot of films that I really despise on many levels. That won't stop me from reviewing them. I'll just explain how I feel about them in the review. What movies have you changed your views on over time for good or bad?
Ooh, controversial.
Here's the thing. Whenever I've done a review of a film, I tend not to watch it again for many, many years because...
Enough of this.
Even if I like the film. Recently, I watched Reanimator. less than 2 weeks ago for the first time since I did the review. And even if I really like a film, it's because when I'm doing the review, I have watched it for notes at least twice. I've watched it again while editing. You know, I'm doing much more concentrating on the film while I'm editing than I did even when I was scripting the note or scripting for when I was writing or taking notes. So, in the process of making a review, I have essentially watched the film at least 4 times.
That's too much.
And so by the time I finish the review, I don't want to watch it again for a long time. And if I don't really like the film, I will probably never will watch it again. Like Children of the Living Dead, I have no intention to ever watch again. So it's really hard to see how my opinion changed. But I will say, like Gothic, first time I watched that was for notes the first time, and I fucking despised it. By the time I finished the film, the review, I quite liked it. But I'm pretty sure I mentioned that in the review itself. So if that happens, I will usually bring it up. I think so, in a way.
I can't stand a film if I have to watch it more than once. For notes. Like we'll watch it for notes. Like Replicator is a great example. I think I've seen that like 4 or 5 times now. Just with I need to get another set of notes. I'm like, this is the squillionth time I've seen Replicator. It was hilarious the first time. Now I'm just like,
Yeah, but it's Replicator.
And I know the fact that it's written tongue-in-cheek that way on purpose, because they basically had, like, the set for another day, and they were like, alright, we'll shoot another movie. And that's fine, but, like, you know, like, at a point, like, if I have to watch something more than a few times, I'm like, I mean, I guess I'd watch Mystics in Bali again, though. I've only seen that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And that was really funny.
Mystic in Bali is a great laugh.
Hello.
What individually makes for a good, strange movie? Is there any one or a couple of things that you can sort of pin down that makes you go, I enjoyed that, even though it's gibberish to most? Honestly, no, I can't pin it down. It's just like, it's like Killer Condom. Killer Condom, from concept to absolutely to the randomness of having everyone in New York speak German, to the random like jazz music.
This is totally not Berlin.
To the really weird, sort of religious sort of bullshit that comes up.
But the puppetry was good.
Yeah, and to the H.R. Giger, you know,
they were practical condom effects.
Yeah, all these elements.
They had teeth.
You would think would make me love that film, and it has all these elements. What usually I would, but I fucking despise Killer Condom.
Well, I thought it was Bugfuck Nanners, and I've seen it twice. Once independently for notes, and then once I think you either Ali or B was over watching it.
Yeah, that bit's gonna get cut out because it's embarrassing. Yes, that.
Don't be embarrassed. Like every big YouTuber shills from.
That.
Call us.
Anyway, I cannot work out what makes a film makes me sort of like it. Even if I could boil it down, there would be exceptions. If I like it, I like it, regardless of whether it makes me happy or not. Like Come and See is a very depressing film. It makes you feel a lot of emotions, mostly negative. However, it's an excellent film. And then you got something like Vikingdom, which is clearly objectively shit.
That's a good thing to watch while you're drinking.
But it's hilarious. So
it's Stonehenge, which is at the top of a mountain like Weathertop from Lord of the Rings for some reason.
So if you want to
instead of a field by a highway.
So if you want to find weird films, like my trick for finding weird and fun films that no one has heard of is just watch a lot of shite, and then like maybe 10% of them will be any good. But you know,
just like by like happenstance, like Manborg.
Yeah, like that one was just back.
We went to a film festival and that was shown. We were like, oh my god.
Yeah, just take every chance you can to find a new film. Like I generally try to watch at least 1 or 2 films a day. Like
she really does.
Like today, just alone today, I watched The Cured, which is an Irish zombie film, which was really, really good. Came out 2017, stars Elliot Page. Leans very heavily into the social commentary. Very dour. Got a lot of referencing, subtle referencing of stuff like the Troubles and other sort of things. It's really good, and much suggest you watch. I'm not going to review it unless a patron requests it, but it was very good.
Very good.
What is my favorite season and why? I'm not sure if this means favorite season of my show or just favorite season of something in general.
Or like the year. Like, do you like summer?
Yes,
Autumn?
summer.
I like autumn best.
Yeah,
I'm not a basic bitch, but I do like autumn best.
It depends where we are for season of weather. I imagine winter in Thailand would be pretty moderate.
I don't like the heat. I like winter and autumn because you can always like put on more clothes, but like you just can't stop sweating. You know?
Winter is good if you're in
There's
Europe.
bugs. There's awful, big, horrible bugs in the summer and spring. I don't like the summer and spring. There's too much sunshine. We've actually lost an hour and 4 minutes of sunshine since the solstice because my weather app tells me so. Every morning I check, and I can't wait until it's at the point where it's like 3 hours of sunlight. Yes.
But winter is pretty good if you're in Europe because, you know, Christmas in Amsterdam is really good. They have excellent Christmas markets, and Derry is perfect for Halloween.
Yeah. Halloween capital of Europe, actually.
But favorite season of my show, I would go probably for season 5 or season 6. Generally, you know, my show, the average of quality has gone up since the start, I think, but it's hard for me to gauge that. That's why I'm interested in finding out what other people think.
Comment below.
Because, you know, generally I hate my own work. Usually there's 1 or 2 moments in a review that I really like, but, you know, that's never other people's favourite bits. Like, Freddy vs. Jason, the best bit is the Goodbye Horses parody, but no one commented on it, and it's like, God damn it.
Because you make obscure jokes, and then you're like, oh, why did no one get my obscure jokes? And I was like, everybody would have got the one about the famous American advert.
That was the Goodbye Horses bit was not obscure.
Just saying.
Okay, what was the name of the very first clone?
No, there were other questions in that one.
If you had to describe yourself, some favorite books. Generally, I stick to factual books. We've got a nice polar exploration library.
We do.
And we've got a very eclectic collection of books. Everything from the history of the sideshow to the history of circumcision. Sorry, no, like a history of castration.
Who was that went mental on a stream one time and you were talking about it?
Oh, no, I didn't go mental. I was talking to Film Brain. We were chatting on Skype and he was streaming, and I started reading excerpts from this book, and he was just reacting to it.
Poor Matty.
This is how you know that, you know, he really likes me, because he's gone through shit like that and he still hangs out with me.
That's true, yeah.
So I very varied. Omega is more of a book person than I am.
I am, although I haven't had time to read fiction like a lot recently. I feel kind of bad. I've really only read about a handful of fiction books. I like science fiction. I like especially Gareth Powell, Becky Chambers, Isaac Asimov. A lot of different authors. I love nonfiction too. More recently, I like humor. So Dave Barry, Irma Bombeck, her stuff's really good. Really hard to find in print these days, but you know. I'm getting really into true crime because of podcasts. So I finally got through the audiobook of The Man on the Train, which is fan-fucking-tastic. If you want to pick it up as audio, Audible, call us. Or, you know, the print book. It's really good. It's basically this theory that connects a lot of axe murderers in the United States from, like, I would say, like, the late 1890s through, like, the mid-19 teens. So, but, like, really, like, forensically.
Yeah, according to an episode of Sawbones, there were an unusual amount of axe murders in this period in American history, and it
all comes together.
But the explanation given by the presenter of Sawbones was, actually, you'd think that there wasn't like a crazy thing of people going around with axes. It just axes were very common for cutting firewood.
Everyone had one.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but basically there's, the authors go through and forensically say, this murder happened, here's all the things about this couple that were murdered with an axe, but here are the reasons why it doesn't match these very specific things there's a cluster of, or a constellation of similarities. Mm-hmm. But like, we don't consider this one as done from the Man from the Train, because it lacks this quality, and this quality, which isn't all the other. Oh, it's really fantastic.
So this is only about this one axe murderer.
It's not about
this, in general.
No, it's about a pattern of family murders done between, I think it's 1897 and 1913 or 14. I can't remember the exact end date, all over the country, but they occurred in clusters in various states. And there were specific similarities in all of them.
Okay.
And they put out a really good case.
See, I didn't realize there was another mysterious axe murderer.
Well, no, they're probably talking about the same phenomenon, because there were a lot of people murdered with axes because they were the most common offensive tool.
No,
but there were specific ones that and then the authors they'll say one author states that this should not be considered, but the other said so it's really good, really objective.
Sounds interesting. What I meant was...
No one can. I'm sorry.
I'd heard previously of the Axeman of New Orleans. With
Yes,
jazz
they discuss him, but they say that again, based on
it's not the same guy.
His behaviors and the behaviors that are common in all of these other clusters, they say they can firmly state that they do not believe that the Axeman of New Orleans is the man from the train.
Yeah, it's a really good book. So I was just thinking that I'd heard of the Axeman of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought it was interesting that there was this whole other axe murdering, serial killer who I hadn't heard of before, and that was very interesting. I'm glad you told me about that.
Sorry, patrons.
Someone is. Have you had to describe yourself in 5 words or phrases? What would you pick? So yeah, oh God, no, please no. Honestly, I can't think of anything. I mean, I make videos. Sometimes people like. That's 6 words.
Yeah, I'm not good at these kinds of games on Facebook or anything.
I'm sorry.
Describe yourself without using the letter E. No.
You just did. What was the name of the very first clone? Now, this depends on what you mean. Do you mean Lucy, the sheep? Dolly the sheep, and the Scottish sheep? Or do you mean Eve, who the Raelians say they cloned in the 90s or something like that? That's the first human clone, but they've never given any evidence for. Or do you mean the first of the minions? In which case, at one point I was trying to work out what the plot of a Hagan film would be, and it would reveal that the original clone person who would be turned into minions would have been basically Teddy, but not actually the same Teddy, but like the person would have been played by Teddy if it was ever made, and they would have been become the first batch of minions.
It'd be really cool if there was something went wrong, and there was a because there's a lot of specific mutations that if it happens on the X chromosome, it's an X chromosome thing, whereby there's one presentation if you got the faulty X chromosome from your mom, and a different presentation if you got it from your dad. I think, and I don't remember the chromosome that's involved, but if it's the one, you end up with Prader-Willi syndrome, and if it's the other, you end up with Angelman syndrome. So I think that you should have in that history that some clones, if they have this specific mutation, they end up Teddy, and if they have the mutation that goes in the other direction, they end up with the Roman Emperor intelligent ones.
Yeah, but both of them played by Teddy. Yeah,
I'm world building.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Just now.
The plot of this film, I can reveal it because it was going to be like an origin story where Hagan, what you were going to have was like a 1960s Batman type city, where they had you had like superhero team, everything was bright and vibrant and happy, and then in comes Hagan, who is basically very uncartoony. He has pure white makeup, sort of goes in there with a gang of criminals and robs the bank, then takes everyone who was in the bank into the vault, kills them all, and leaves the money, and then goes away. And
what was the point of the crime?
To murder everyone.
You could have murdered people so much easier.
Yeah, but it's to make.
I'm American. This is what we do.
It's to make
kill large groups of people indiscriminately.
It's supposed to be a bait and switch, like you're expecting it to be a bank robbery, and then suddenly it's actually just mass murder. And then you would have like this bit where, basically the police in this town are very, very inept because the superheroes have dealt with everything and they have no idea what to do. And then you've got the supervillains, so they team up. They're sort of like having this big council meeting, being like, "Oh no, what are we going to do? We're getting a bad rap now. We've got actual crime. It's terrible." So Hagan comes in and murders all the.
It's not theoretical crime. It's actual manslaughter.
So she comes in and she murders all of the supervillains, and then she gets her face
They had
covered
no
in...
bodyguards.
Well, she kills them too.
Okay.
Because the idea is, imagine if the Heath Ledger Joker decided to take on the 1960s Gotham. That's the basic concept.
That would be really funny.
And then you've got, so Hagan, when she murders all the other supervillains, she gets blood on her face, and she keeps it there for the rest of the movie. And that's the origin of the red.
Why so serious?
And then, so you got she takes on the superheroes, and they all become more darker and more edgier in order to take on Hagan, and Hagan becomes more theatrical, from their influence. And by the end of it, Hagan has left the city with a bunch of money, with cloning technology that she's planning with the one remaining one remaining assistant, who would be played by Teddy.
Becomes a first
To go, and the plan is to head east towards Afghanistan or Pakistan, the area where Afghanistan is, with the implication is she's planning on starting a country.
See, I had an idea years and years ago, once while I was wandering up around a park, to do a socio-political history of Afghanistan, starting out in the pre-Stone Age, the part of this tectonic plate. These are the common rocks in geography and geology. Going to, when, Denisovians and Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon first came through vaguely what time, and that would sync up with real history, and then, kind of start carving it out from the rest of Eastern European / Asian history as we get, through the Mongol era and stuff, but then I didn't.
Well, see that idea, because as far as I'm concerned, what I've described is the actual origin of how Hagan ended up, forming Afghanistan. She went there, she used the cloning technology and the money and the weird sci-fi tech that she got from the city, from the supervillains, and she basically used it mercilessly to create, and she carved out Afghanistan. However, your idea, that could be the epic mythic history that Afghanistan pretends it has.
Well, the thing is, if you ever had done anything that required a Kickstarter, that would have been my idea for a stretch goal. That you would get this, and it would have to be something that if we were already producing things, it could be cheaply produced, a very cheaply bound, not cheaply bound, but something through Lulu.com, a small paperback, I think about these things. I think this was also because that was around the cusp of the time when I was supposed to be potentially setting up a small trade press, and we all know how that happened.
I considered several times trying to do a fake documentary about how Afghanistan runs, but I'm terrible at doing documentaries. Once in college I had to do a documentary, and it was so bad that I was actually asked by my lecturer if I was taking the piss and it was a parody.
Well, that's really sad.
Well, here's the thing: I was considered one of his best students, and so the fact that I was so bad at this randomly.
Did you try to be all artsy and stuff?
No, I just tried to make... I have no idea fundamentally how to make a documentary, which is ironic considering...
You've made a documentary.
I was hired to make a documentary at one point. Clips of it were on a BBC documentary where they insulted it, which, fair enough. I insult Doctor Who, they insult my stuff.
I think you should.
Anyway, now, were there any movies you planned to make Hagan reviews, but you had to scrap for one reason or another? Yes, actually. Police Academy 7, we took notes for that together in our first night when we hung out. When we met up.
Oh yeah, in the travel lodge in Belfast.
Yep.
And we basically had was your laptop, right? Because I didn't bring my laptop.
Yeah.
Basically on a chair between the two beds, with the cord trailing back because I think it was having battery issues.
Yeah.
And I was like.
So that one I got about 20 minutes into the film, I decided I couldn't make this funny. And I'm thinking at some point I might go back to it as a challenge to myself, because I'm pretty sure I could do it now, but back then, that was the very early days.
Back in the day.
Yeah. The other one is Lex, episode 1. I was trying to do an episode of that, but I gave up on that very, very early in the first episode.
You could do a guide.
You could. Why are your views on the invention of television sure to be controversial? Because this was an example of a question you could ask. Ask me my controversial views on the history of television. And in short, the inventor of the television depends on your nationality. In America, Philo Farnsworth. In the UK, John Logie
No one
Baird.
knows that. It's not like you're gonna go to some American high school and everyone's gonna be like, let me tell you about Philo Farnsworth, you motherfucker. No, everyone's gonna be like, okay.
But in the more British-centric world, UK, Australia and all, it is John Logie Baird, who's a Scottish guy. And then in Russia, you've got a different guy who I can't remember the name of. And I don't...
So memorable.
I know that Baird's predates Philo Farnsworth, but his one was mechanical. And the version of TV that we have now is based on Philo Farnsworth's. However, so whoever invented television partially depends on nationality, but it also depends on how you define television. And I would say Baird, but I don't know if that's a nationalistic thing or if that's because, something else. Who knows?
I have zero opinions.
As far as Paul Williams movie musicals go, do you prefer Bugsy Malone or The Phantom of Paradise? Bugsy Malone, Phantom of Paradise is a bit bollocks. Ooh, controversial.
Oh, I've never seen Phantom of the Paradise, but I heard about it.
It's a bit silly.
I think it was on Musical Splaining. They talked about Phantom of the Paradise, which I've never seen. But I like Bugsy Malone, because I'll stand for that, because when I was a little teeny kid, we rented it from Family Video in Media, Pennsylvania. And basically, my parents were getting a sitter and going out. So, they kind of pre-bribed us to be good. Like, we'd get to rent a video, and my dad would bring home McDonald's when he brought the babysitter back, and there'd be snacks with the promise of further treats if we behaved ourselves. And so I'm pretty sure, that was the weekend that my mom, made these experimental, Blondie's, right?
Yeah.
There's a brownie that's just not got chocolate in it. Mm-hmm. It was like a cookie kind of bar. She made these experimental ones. They're supposed to have this, layer of, I'm not even sure, some kind of crumble on top. But for some reason, the crumble layer kind of caramelized and sunk into the batter. So they actually had this really thick, chewy toffee layer at the bottom. And so I kind of think that my memory of Bugsy Malone is combined up with this, serotonin and dopamine overload of, a conflagration of treats.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good musical. I mean, I really like the song the little dancer kid sings about how, you're always being told tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow will never come.
You know who played the full of herself actress one in that?
Mm-mm.
That was Bunny Langford, who played Mel in Doctor Who.
Right.
And do you know who played the young short guy? Babyface. That was Dexter Fletcher, who later on directed Rocketman.
Oh, I know that. What's his face? Was he's a dick now. Was the main guy Scott Baio? Is it?
Is that Scott Baio?
I don't know. It's one of those 80s guys that now is a complete right-wing asshole.
Jeez.
I think it is him. My phone is somewhere else, so I can't Google it. But I'm pretty sure that it was one of those guys that was big in the 80s and now's a dick.
I believe you. Alright, last question. What was your personally favorite crossover collaboration so far? Very hard question, because I like doing crossovers basically because it's an excuse to hang out with someone who I like. Hang out, because when you're at a con, it is hard to pin someone down, but if you're doing a crossover with them, you're in the room with them for several hours, you're filming, but you're also chatting, hanging out, talking. Yeah. So it's basically like doing the work of an episode plus a hangout session. So all of them are fun. When it comes to final review, going from strength of the other person in performance-wise and the notes they gave me and how well it turned out and subject matter in the film, put all those factors together, probably Tetsuo the Iron Man, because working with Vangelis...
Vangelis is great. That movie was horrible, but Vangelis is great.
Vangelis is a very interesting guy. He always gives way more than 100% at everything he does. And Tetsuo lent itself to a lot of good jokes. Could also make similar comments about my stuff with Film Brain, but unfortunately, with the exception of Voyage of the Rock Aliens, all the films we've reviewed have not lent themselves to reviews in the same way, because Little Unicorn is coming up, Merlin, Berserker, they're just crap. They're not interesting. And Ashens is also a delight.
He's really professional, yeah.
Mystics and Ballet was particularly fun. The Perv Parlor was a lot less fun than you'd think, simply because the film didn't really lend itself to review very much. Well,
that was cool because was it that or was it Mystics and Ballet where Mike J was about, and he just comes in for a second and be like, another thing, and then leaves because I'm like, what the fuck?
I think that was Mystics and Ballet.
Yeah.
Well, that could have been Perv Parlor. It was funny
I
regardless.
can't remember.
But yeah, when it comes to the collaboration, it's hard for me to sort of to disconnect the experience of making the review with everything else. With the finished review, like the to-camera stuff is the least fun to do because
everyone's stressed and hot, and it's usually you have to turn off the hotel air conditioning. And everyone's in a pissy mood, and what you can't see are the 7 people in the hotel room that have squished themselves behind beds and out of camera range, so it looks like there's just 2 people sitting in an empty hotel room, and all of us are squished.
That does happen, yeah. Those are usually physically quite punishing.
And the one person that can't stop moving their legs, you're like, you're making a noise, and then someone has to pee, and you're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, physically, the in-person ones can be a little bit punishing, especially if you've got a bunch of people hanging out and watching. But, you know, it also adds to the fun of the flubs.
I'll say that the crossover collaboration that you filmed, that I feel went the smoothest, and it was the easiest, and it was just such a pleasure to do, was with Rantasmo, when you guys did Vegas in Space. Because, first of all, it was a weird, fun, crazy film to watch to help you take notes for. And, like, Jamie was just a really great guy to work with. Like, him and his partner really laid back. Like, I recall you not having to do any really superfluous, like lines that just nobody could get. It just, I think it took about, under an hour?
Yeah. Some reviews take fucking ages. Like, Island of Dr. Moreau took about 6 hours.
PTSD.
It was very long.
Because everybody was involved. Oh, that was the mag film. Well, you filmed, like, what? Like 5 or 6?
Something like that.
And I had the flu, and... Although the most epic one was probably was God of Vampires that you did with Lupa, because there was a protracted part of it where a minion, as played by Latin vegan, you know, has like he has to dash, you know, from somewhere else. And this was filmed over several days of getting him to dash.
Oh no, it was all filmed on the Sunday morning before we left.
No, because wasn't there one part that was filmed the day before? I'm pretty sure there was a crowd scene that was.
It wasn't a crowd scene. No, we filmed people dancing around.
Oh, that's what it was.
That was a different bit.
But at any rate, there's a part where someone has to come and tackle him from like a side corridor. So we had a T intersection. And so basically, we had it set up so there's a pile of pillows from various of our hotel rooms, so that he would be tackled down into that. You couldn't see the pillows.
He did the tackling. He was tackling Jackie.
Okay, that's what it was. So basically, we kept doing this, and we kept, you know, like getting more takes of it. And then around the corner comes a hotel employee with someone who is obviously a manager. He's wearing a suit. He has a name tag. He has a clipboard. So it looks like he's conducting some kind of assessment on this employee's performance. And then we're like, whoa, bam! It gets taken down. And they both stop and look at us. And I'm like, wait, it's for YouTube. We'll put the pillows back. I promise. We're not. And they're just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, all in-person reviews.
They're always fun.
They're more stressed, but they're always more fun.
Oh, and
Necromentia.
Yeah, Necromentia.
Oh, I love working with Andrew.
And he brought Gorehoundsley doesn't do horror videos anymore, but Scottish, really great guy. Again, excellent to hang out with. Well, he brought some of his friends to this con, and I forgot their names, so I just started calling them the Horror Scots. But like, filming with them, that was a great time.
Yeah.
I missed seeing people in real life.
Yeah. But the doing them in camera to camera is nowhere near as much fun, because you've got it's the usual stress of doing a review, plus you got to perform more naturalistically to the camera, you know, and you've got to try and merge your performance with their performance in a way that's not jarring. And if you don't have the person there, it is difficult, especially if you don't have access to their footage when you're making it, which obviously one of you will not have. So those are much more stressful and a lot less fun. Having said that, you know, I'd love to do an in-person one with Zach, you know, the storyteller from Christian Review. We've never met in real life. All we've done is to camera stuff.
Well, if we ever go to Colorado.
Yeah. And like we did, Monstered was filmed to be in person, then it became a camera to camera because half the footage was lost. And the Little Unicorn review, which is coming up with Filmbrain, it was written to be in person. We were meant to film that at the same time as, what was it? The Perf Parlor?
Well, you filmed Perf Parlor, but you filmed
February last year.
Yeah. And basically, it was a big winter storm. I forget the name of it. And it was, a lot of us were supposed to go back the next day. and Film Brain had taken the train, and he was like, look, I'm going to leave tonight because I'm not sure about my ability to get home. We're like, yeah, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. And it was wise. In retrospect, it was wise because our flights were canceled, and we ended up in England for like, what, an extra 2-3 days?
2 or 3 days,
I can't remember.
So,
right before the COVID.
So it would have...
We were like, oh, but no, because we were going to go to Portsmouth. We were going to go to Portsmouth in May of 2020. Yeah. We had like the flights and hotel reserved and everything.
Yeah, it was going to be us and Ashens and Film Brain.
I think a few other people think.
Yeah.
So, and then, but obviously, you know, because COVID, we're like, oh, well, surely this can't go on more than a few months.
So yeah, finally it's being turned into a camera-to-camera one. He sent me his footage. Hopefully the review will be good.
See, now I'm like trying to think of all the
crossovers.
There was when you did Koyaanisqatsi.
Yeah, that was the unique one.
And that was a pain in the ass because everyone had to be chanting Koyaanisqatsi, and no one could get. And so I'm like conducting it like from behind the camera.
That one grew out of. I had an idea. It was going to be called Koyaanis Convention, and it was. I had this idea of filming footage at MagFest and working with Skitch, and he comes up with like a Philip Glass-esque soundtrack, and it is basically a parody of Koyaanisqatsi just set in a convention. Then I realized that would be incredibly difficult, and no one would actually want to watch that. So I was like, why don't we do a Koyaanisqatsi review together? And he's like, I like this idea, because he's very enthusiastic about everything. I'd love to do if he comes to Combravo, like do a Poakatsi and a Nakoikatsi reviews with him. Try it. If I can think of a new twist on the gimmick, because I wouldn't want to do the exact same thing for each of those reviews.
Pirates of the Great Salt Lake was fun with Magic Steve.
Yeah.
Was it because you guys had to dress like Mormons?
Wonderful film, Pirates of the Great Salt Lake.
And Sway just shows up. No, you're Mormoning wrong.
Yeah. And like Magic Steve, he didn't do very much in the way of videos, and he's not done anything very much since then. But
but he's got a business though.
Oh yeah.
He's doing his
stuff. I was just saying that Magic Steve. That is a case of I'm friends with Magic Steve. I like Magic Steve a lot. He's a good performer. So I was like, let's do a crossover, even though I'm guessing almost everyone in my audience won't know who you are.
I think you should start incorporating people that we know, like. Get Laura Kenny to play a minion or something.
I would be fine with that.
She'd have a ball.
If we're filming, yeah, I'm fine with that. So yeah, crossovers, it's generally, especially in person, it's an excuse to hang out with people that you're friends with, and that's fun.
Sit in a stale hotel room sweating with them.
Yeah, I mean, usually if I'm in a place where I can do convention...
Actually, MagFest not so much, because MagFest was always in January and it was freezing.
That's true.
So okay, I'm just thinking of the Combravo one where it's fucking hot.
But with generally with my crossovers, I've completely forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. I derailed you.
You completely derailed me.
You were like...
It was something important. It was very, very deep and meaningful.
Because it's a good way to hang out with people, and basically that's...
Oh yeah, I remembered now. And the great/bad thing about the crossovers is if I'm in a position to do one crossover, usually I'm there for a convention or a convention adjacent thing. And generally that means I'm not doing just one. So you get very, very frazzled. Because like multiple times I've done like 4 or 5 reviews in about 2 or 3 days. And it's probably not the most sensible thing to do, but I think it's...
And sometimes tempers can run. Like, I remember there being a convention. I won't say which one, I won't say the producer involved, but somebody was staying in our room, like, returned, and then went to use the toilet, and then they got done, and the producer was like, what the water, and lit them up and down the mountain about it, and they were like, so I'm gonna go. Bye.
Yeah, whenever people are...
We were like, whoa, and then they were like, okay, that was maybe... We're like, yeah, maybe you should apologize.
So I hope that answered all the questions. If
That's
you
all
like this,
and more.
If you like this, I'm sure I can do another one. Leave a message.
Ask us about socio-political.
Yes.